Om Jnanatimirandasya Gyananjanashvalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Shtapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavamsha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sadhana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Varijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahaganadalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanusute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyasya Kripa Sindhubhya Eva Cha Patitanam Pavnebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Everyone together. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Once more. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Please repeat after me. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Hare Krishna. Recently you would have done the Manasiksha summary with the Grace Urmila Mataji. How many of you were there for that? How did you find it? How did you find it, Sanjay? Self-revealing, right? What was the other side of self-revealing? I like to call it self-healing. Like, the thing with Manasiksha, it's a book that my experience of studying that text, I studied also with Urmila Mataji several years ago. Not too long after she came out with the book, she came to Trinidad and we did a 3-day on that. And I think was it last year, we did a 1-day course on Zoom with her through the CIHE. I found it to be like when you go through that book, especially as a practicing devotee for many years, it reveals certain things about you that you yourself sometimes would rather not see. You know, but the other side of it is that even though the author, Raghunath Das Goswami, is very, very heavy, and he's not being heavy on anybody else except himself. Even though he's beyond that stage, he's sort of addressing it to himself in a manner of speaking. At the end of it, he gives, 5 things that we could do every day to help us go beyond those difficulties that we experience. And one of them is that every day we should dedicate some time to repeating the glories of the Lord. Urmila Mataji, when she summarizes it in that course, she just says glories. Glories. So in recent weeks, we've had, several festivals leading up to Krishna's appearance, and then subsequent to Krishna's appearance, we had Prabhupada's appearance day, the appearance day of Srimati Radharani. We had also the appearance of Vamandev. We also had the appearance of Bhaktivinoda Thakur. So a number of festivals we would have had back to back to back to back. And right now we have a little quiet time, and then it will start again. In that the period of the Kartik Vrat would begin. And so what I thought I would do, it's some things I've been meditating on for some months now, is exploring the different demons that Krishna kills in Vrindavan. And I thought I would share some thoughts I had on that this morning. And most of it won't be my thoughts. We'll actually almost read the entire chapter. Because one of the things that is this period of time also is that we are asked to give a special emphasis on reading Srila Prabhupada's books. Srila Prabhupada, one of the, if not the greatest contributions he made to this world is the contribution of his books. And I'm sure, like anyone who dedicates some time at any point in time, whether it's in an ongoing way or whether it's occasionally, whether it's just when you come to the temple and you hear something that Srila Prabhupada would have written in his books, it tends to resonate. I'm sure everybody would have had an experience like that. Maybe not every time, but sometimes you would just pick up one of Srila Prabhupada's books and you begin to read, and something strikes us very deeply. Almost we have the experience that Srila Prabhupada is speaking to us directly. And Srila Prabhupada, he would sometimes go to bed at maybe 10, 10:30, sometimes even later, and he would be up by 12:1. Just sleeping 1.5, 2 hours, and he would begin to pour himself into his books. And Srila Prabhupada's books are quite remarkable in that, apart from giving a very beautiful translation along with the word for word of the text itself, especially in the cases of Chaitanya Charitamrita, Srimad Bhagavatam, and Bhagavad Gita, Srila Prabhupada gives very beautiful explanations. And these explanations oftentimes are an amalgamation of commentaries which would have been given by previous acharyas. Especially in Srimad Bhagavatam, Srila Prabhupada would have quoted from one acharya by the name of Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. He would have also quoted from Sridhar Swami, who is the first commentator on the Srimad Bhagavatam. He would have also quoted from Jiva Goswami. And sometimes, like I've had this experience reading Srila Prabhupada's books, and I've also read some of the other commentaries of the other acharyas, and it's always very beautiful when you go back to Srila Prabhupada's books and you realize that, wait, Srila Prabhupada here is actually quoting Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, or Srila Prabhupada is actually quoting, this acharya, that, when you recognize them. So it's almost like I have the experience sometimes that by reading Srila Prabhupada's books, not only are we getting to hear from Srila Prabhupada, but we're becoming connected to our heritage in a very close and intimate way. So I'll read, one of the things that Srila Prabhupada did is interesting. He didn't get the chance to personally complete the Bhagavad Puran, Srimad Bhagavatam. He completed up to the 13th chapter, as I recall, the prayers of Lord Brahma. And but prior to that, he did complete the 10th canto in the form of Krishna book. And this book was graciously, the first print was actually sponsored by George Harrison of the Beatles. And in the 10th canto of the Bhagavad Puran consists of 90 chapters. It is the largest of all the sections of Bhagavatam. The Bhagavatam is divided into 12 sections. And the The 10th canto, which deals specifically with Krishna's pastimes, comprise the largest. In fact, the 10th and 11th canto primarily deal with Krishna's pastimes, and those practically constitute 1/3, if not almost half, of the entire Bhagavatam. The 11th and the 10th cantos. Bhagavatam is 355 chapters, if memory serves me correctly. The 11th canto is, I can't remember, but close to 30 chapters, or if not 20 something chapters. So you put that together as 100 and something, almost half, like 30 something percent of the entire Bhagavatam is dedicated to Krishna's pastimes. And the Bhagavatam itself is meant to direct us towards Krishna. From the very beginning of the text itself, Janmadhyasya yataha anvayat itaratas charteshva vigyasvara tene brahma hridaya adi kavaye muhyanti yat surya tejo vari mridam yata vinimayo yatra sarva amrisha dhamna swena sada nirasta kupakam satyam param dhimahi. In this first verse, we find the word dhimahi. And for those of us who are familiar with the Vedic culture and the importance of mantras in the Vedic culture, this word dhimahi would be a very familiar word. Everyone must be familiar with the Brahma Gayatri. Bhargo devasya dhimahi. So dhimahi, it calls our attention to be fixed on something. So similarly, in this verse of Srimad Bhagavatam, the same word is used. And it's interesting that the word dhimahi is in the Vedic Sanskrit, not Puranic Sanskrit. It's interesting. So that it shows its connection to the Vedic heritage of India. Sometimes people have this idea that the Vedas are more ancient. The language is a bit different, the way it's constructed is a bit different, and the Puranas are more recent offering by Vyas. But the Bhagavatam, it shows itself as being Vedic by using the word dhimahi from the very beginning. If it was Puranic Sanskrit, if I remember correctly, His Grace Radhika Raman Prabhu was giving this example. The word used would be dhyayemaha as opposed to dhimahi. But it calls us that this book, the subject matter, is actually the sum total of the Vedas. That who the Vedas are directing us to. Vedaishcha sarvair aham eva vedyaha. That is Krishna. The Vedas are directing us towards Krishna. And Srimad Bhagavatam from the very beginning is saying here, because this is Krishna. This is Krishna. Srila Prabhupada writes in the Bhagavatam that if we properly hear and read and chant the Bhagavatam, we will be able to see Krishna face to face in every page. These are Srila Prabhupada's direct words in the 3rd chapter of the 1st canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. It's very, very beautiful. Very, very emphatic. That we'll be able to see Krishna face to face on every page. So Srila Prabhupada writes, as I was mentioning, there are 90 chapters in 10th canto. And Srila Prabhupada gave us the entire 10th canto in the form of Krishna book, which is almost a word-for-word translation with Srila Prabhupada's own thoughts interspersed within. And this is one of the things that Srila Prabhupada says in the 90th chapter, at the end. Like if you look at Krishna book itself, it's just about 1.5 pages more, and then the entire 10th canto finished. This is what Srila Prabhupada writes. The transcendental pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna are so powerful that simply by hearing, reading, and memorizing this book, Krishna, one is sure to be transferred to the spiritual world, which is ordinarily very difficult to achieve. The description of the pastimes of Lord Krishna are so attractive that it automatically gives us an impetus to study repeatedly. And the more we study the pastimes of the Lord, the more we become attached to Him. This very attachment to Krishna makes one eligible to be transferred to His abode, Golok Vrindavan. So these are Srila Prabhupada's direct words from Krishna book. That Krishna's pastimes are so powerful that simply by hearing, reading, or memorizing. So hearing means anybody could do. Right now I am speaking, all of you are hearing, I am also hearing. And I have the added bonus, being that I am speaking, I get to read also. And because I would have had to prepare, I would have had to do some memorization also. But it's actually very powerful. What we practice doing, we become good at, is it not? What we practice doing, we become good at. It's a universal principle. If we practice doing something which is good and beneficial, it becomes easy, it becomes second nature. The other side of it is also true. If we practice doing something which is detrimental to our benefit, we also become good at that. And oftentimes, both things are difficult. Sometimes it's very difficult to do the things that are actually beneficial for us. And sometimes it's very, very difficult to break those habits which are detrimental to us. But if we look at the bigger picture, and we have a goal for self, for existence, now we can take strength from that. And as it is said commonly, a journey of 1,000 steps or 1,000 miles begins with but a single step. Even taking small steps in the right direction is better than going very fast in the wrong direction. So Srila Prabhupada mentions here that by reading about, by hearing, and by memorizing Krishna's pastimes, one is sure, this is Srila Prabhupada's emphatic words here, one is sure to be transferred to the spiritual world. Why? Because by repeatedly hearing about Krishna, one develops attachment for Krishna. And by developing attachment to Krishna, that makes us eligible to be transferred. So the purpose of the Bhagavatam is to help us become attached to Krishna. Just like we were singing this bhajan, Gopi Prana Dhana, that He's the life, the very prana of the gopis. If you don't have life in your body, what happens? If the prana leaves the body, what happens? The body just lies down there, isn't it? So similarly, gopis, they are being described as pranadhana. Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, Bhakti Vinod Ashraya is the only shelter of Bhakti Vinod. So how to develop that attachment, how to become dear to Krishna, and to make Krishna dear to us. It's a two-sided thing. It requires some effort on our part. There's a very beautiful pastime in the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam where Rukmini Devi, she has never seen Krishna. She's only heard about Krishna. And she understands that her relatives are going to get her married to somebody. I think it was Shishupal, if I'm not mistaken. I stand to be corrected on that. And she felt, I'm not having that. My desire is that I should marry Krishna. So she wrote a letter to Krishna. She's never seen him. She's only heard about Krishna. And she writes to Krishna, one of the things she says, and I'm paraphrasing, where's that woman who has heard about you that can keep her mind in a stable state? And she said that certainly, if something that is fit for the consumption of a lion is left to the pleasure of a jackal, wouldn't that be considered a ludicrous affair? She's telling Krishna, she has words. She knows how to use words too. But her attraction for Krishna developed just by hearing. Only by hearing. The first of all the processes of bhakti is what? Shravanam. To hear about Krishna. By hearing about Krishna, then we learn we can share with others also. When we hear something, we can share with our friend. This helps us to change the quality of our conversations. The quality of our conversations is a reflection of the quality of our consciousness. The quality of our conversations is a direct reflection of the quality of our consciousness. So when we practice hearing about Krishna, then we can practice sharing about Krishna. And primarily we can share with our friends. How much nicer it would be if when we meet each other, we could share something like, I was just reading this, let me share it with you. You want to hear? And even if they say, no, spare 2 minutes. I was reading this. If that becomes the basis increasingly of our conversations, how much happier we would be as a community. So today what I thought I would do is read a little of one chapter of the 10th canto of Bhagavatam. We have about 25 more minutes until the Aarti. And I'll stop from time to time and give some explanation. I'll read, maybe not all the verses, but I'll read some of the prominent verses. And it has to do with the subject matter of the killing of a demon by the name of Dhenukasura. Srila Prabhupada translates this as the killing of Dhenuka, the ass demon. Because he had that form. He was in the form of an ass. He had that form, but his consciousness was also like that. So at least if you could take away anything from this class, don't be like Dhenukasura. Try very, very hard not to be like Dhenukasura. I wouldn't say the other way. So the chapter begins. And why I like this chapter, because it marks the junction of one of Krishna's pastime periods, from his Balya Leela into his Pauganda Leela. In the sense that previously, or to put it differently, more directly, up to this point, Krishna was taking care of the calves. But from this chapter, Nanda Maharaj and the other elderly cowherd men see that Krishna is becoming a bit more competent, he's becoming a bit more strong, a bit more sensible. So let him take care of the older cows, the older members of the herd. So Shukadeva Goswami begins this chapter as follows. Shri Shuka Uvacha Tatasya Pauganda Vayasrita Vraje Babhu Vatustau Pashupala Sammato Gascharayanto Sakivi Samampadair Vrindavanam punyam ativa chakratuhu. Shukadeva Goswami said, when Lord Ram and Lord Krishna attained the age of Pauganda, 6 to 10, while living in Vrindavana, the cowherd men allowed them to take up the task of tending the cows. Engaging thus in the company of their friends, the two boys rendered the land of Vrindavan most auspicious by imprinting upon it the marks of their lotus feet. So this is actually a day that is marked on the Vaishnava calendar. In the month of Kartik, if you pay attention to the calendar, you will find a day called Gopa Ashtami. Gopa Ashtami. And this is the day that is being mentioned here. On that day, Krishna, who was previously taking care of only the calves, was entrusted with the responsibility of taking care of the cows. And this is very significant. Even I find it has application in our day-to-day lives. How do we relate with our children? As parents, do we do every single thing for them? Or do we give them some responsibility? Nanda Maharaj is demonstrating that in Vrindavan, even the Supreme Personality of Godhead has chores. He has to take some responsibility. He has to develop character. Nanda Maharaj takes his job as a parent very seriously. One of the best things we can do for our children is give them a taste of responsibility. Small things, not necessarily big things, as per their age. Let them learn to do certain things. One of the things that, I didn't know this would work out so well for me. I have two daughters, right? I'll tell you a little story. I have two daughters. The young one, I don't know if I'll ever be able to give her any responsibility. But the older one, she amazes me sometimes. Like in the morning, she would wake up for school, she would come down, sort herself out while I'm finishing cooking and making offering and things, getting ready to take them to school. Like I would tell her, all right, sort out your sister. And she would, hurry up the sister, make sure the sister's bag is packed and make sure the sister packs her bag. Then sometimes she would have it in the car, she would put her things in the car, pack two of their lunches and go and have the van start and warming up. And that impressed me. I didn't know she would take to that, and it's become part of a routine. It's very, very impressive. Not because it's my daughter, I'm saying that, but even for me, I'm very surprised. And it shows that she takes certain responsibilities very seriously, and I'm very grateful for that. I'm quite grateful for that. And is it extra for her to do in a morning? Yes, it's extra. But it builds character. It builds character. That they learn the sense of responsibility. So when they grow older, as we grow older, what happens? The magnitude of the responsibility increases. So when we grow accustomed managing small responsibilities, then it becomes easier to manage bigger responsibilities. And we grow over time. So Krishna, he takes this responsibility very seriously, and along with his friends, he enters into the Vrindavan forest. And as he is entering into the Vrindavan forest, they see the beauty of the forest. And the word used to describe Krishna is Madhava. And Madhava means husband of the goddess of fortune. It also means the spring season, the springtime. So this pastime is taking place later in the year, during the autumn season, just before winter. But when Krishna enters the forest blossoms as if it's spring. And Sanatana Goswami gives an extensive commentary about the meaning of the word Madhava. So what does it mean? That Vrindavan, it responds to the desires of the Lord. It is not linear, but it's reciprocal with Krishna's desires. The Dham understands the mood of Krishna and reciprocates by presenting spring. So flowers which are uncharacteristic for that time begin to bloom. There's the sound of birds. Honey begins to drip from certain trees. And it becomes a very pleasant and beautiful atmosphere. As he's entering into the forest, Krishna sees that the trees of the forest begin to bend down. They bend to as if touch his feet, to offer the fruits from the higher branches lower down for him to be able to grasp it very easily. That the flowers would come low, almost touch his feet. And Krishna sees this. And he turns to Balaram and begins to glorify Balaram. The Acharyas comment that the forest is actually doing everything to serve Krishna, to praise Krishna, to reciprocate with Krishna. But Krishna, even though he understands that, he's telling Balaram, just look and see how these trees want to worship you. How these trees are offering themselves to you. Their fruit, all the animals, they want to offer themselves to you for your pleasure. And he goes on like this for several verses. And this I find also very nice in terms of Krishna's character. He doesn't mind giving the praise to someone else. He takes the opportunity to glorify his brother. And as they're going through the forest, they are playing different games and performing different activities in the company of the cowherd boys. And eventually, it's almost maybe 11 o'clock or so they want to take rest. So the cowherd boys prepare, they put together some twigs and some leaves for Krishna's pleasure, for him to lie down. And they make Krishna to lie down. And the Acharyas give a very interesting comment. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. He says that Krishna, he manifested many forms because many cowherd boys would have presented many different places for him to rest. So he manifested many forms and lie down on all. So nobody would be disappointed. He extended himself in this way. So as they were resting, there's this very beautiful verse. When his elder brother, fatigued from playing, would lie down with his head upon the lap of a cowherd boy, Lord Krishna would help him relax by personally massaging his feet and offering other services. So Lord Krishna is massaging Balaram. Balaram is taking rest, and Krishna is massaging Balaram. Sometimes Lord Krishna grew tired from fighting because they would fight. They would, like young boys, they would fight amongst themselves and play. Sometimes Lord Krishna grew tired from the fighting and lay down at the base of a tree, resting upon a bed made of soft twigs and buds, and using the lap of a cowherd friend as his pillow. Some of the cowherd boys, who were all great souls, would then massage his lotus feet, and others, qualified by being free of all sin, would expertly fan the Lord. My dear king, other boys would sing enchanting songs appropriate to the occasion, and their hearts would melt out of love for the Lord. So it's interesting. It's describing how the cowherd boys they would offer various services to Krishna. And through the offering of services, their love for Krishna would increase. The word used here is their hearts would melt. Sneha klinhana dhiya sanai. Out of affection, sneha, their hearts would melt. The natural result of offering service to Krishna is development of love for Krishna. And it goes without saying, it's a universal principle that when we offer service to someone else, it is natural that our appreciation and love for them increases. It is natural. And this is demonstrated by the cowherd boys here. If we want to increase our love for Krishna, then try to do some service for Krishna. Try to do some service for Krishna's devotees. And this naturally increases our affection for Krishna. And when our affection for Krishna increases, what happens? Our service also increases. It's natural. The quality increases and also the quantity might also increase. It's a natural thing that happens. So then, in this verse, it is said, the scene changes now. The scene changes. So they were playing, Krishna was given this responsibility, they went into the forest, they got tired, they lied down, Krishna massaged Balaram. Then Krishna lied down, and the cowherd boys massaged Krishna. Now some boys are named, and Shukadeva Goswami says, Sri Rama Nama Gopalo Rama Keshava Yosaka Subalastuk Krishnadhya Gopa Premnedam Abruvan. Once, some of the cowherd boys, Sri Rama, the very close friend of Rama and Krishna, along with Subala and Stoka Krishna and others, lovingly spoke the following words. Lovingly. Premna idam. Words filled with love. In other words, they are speaking these words for Krishna's pleasure. So what were the words? Let's hear. Rama Rama Mahabaho Krishna Dushta Nirbandito Vidure Ito Vidure Sumahad Vanam Talali Shankulam. The cowherd boy said, O Rama, Rama, mighty armed one. O Krishna, destroyer of the miscreants. Not far from here is a very great forest filled with rows of palm trees. So what type of trees? The word uses tala, a tala tree. So specifically is mentioned a palm tree. So a tala tree is a kind of palm. Was I mistaken? I did see Jagnarayan walking just now. You know what a tala tree is, Jagnarayan Prabhu? Not a tall tree. You know, sometimes in Ghana you can say, that man real tall. A tala tree is tall. But you know what type of palm tree is a tala tree? I thought if anybody would knew this might be Jagnarayan. There's a type of palm known as a palmyra palm. A palmyra palm. And it bears a fruit that is bluish blackish in color, between 10 centimeters and 18 centimeters in diameter, and very fragrant. So in that specific forest known as Talavan, it was populated with tala trees. It was an estate. And whose estate was it? Kamsa's estate. And who was in charge of that estate? On behalf of Kamsa, a demon by the name of Dhenukasura. So it's interesting. Where is Vrindavan, Brajmandal? That is Krishna's home, isn't it? What is the audacity of Kamsa to think that he could have some property in Krishna's home and put one demon to guard it? You know, one time, I think it was Gaurkishore Das Babaji, one of those Babajis. He had a very deep affection for Navadvip Dham. I think it was Gaurkishore Das Babaji. And somebody went to him and they wanted to get him a piece of land where he doesn't have to, was very strange. He would chant his japa near a public restroom, you know, and he didn't care. He would just go anywhere within Navadvip. So they asked him, you know, he said, land? This is the holy Dham. Each particle of dust here is Chintamani. What gives you the idea that you can own anything here? What gives you the idea that you can own anything in Krishna's place? Actually, even in the material world, this is also Krishna's place. Krishna says, this is my place. Aham sarvasya pravavo mata sarvam pravartate. Sometimes we may have some tenureship over a piece of land, over a piece of property. But Bhaktivinoda Thakur gives the right idea. That we see it, that we are just caretakers of this on behalf of Krishna. Manasta deha geha jo kichumar outpilun tura pade nanda kishore. I'm just the caretaker of this for the time being. So if we actually see ourselves as the caretaker, then what we'll do? We'll take good care of it. We'll take care of it nicely. So this Dhenukasura, he was taking care of this tala fruit estate for Kamsa. And nobody would go there. Because the cowherd boys described that he was very ferocious. If somebody innocently entered into that forest, sometimes Dhenuka would eat them. He was not an ordinary Dhenuka. He was a very ferocious one. He would eat them, and therefore nobody would go. So the cowherd boys, they are saying, "O Rama, O Krishna, Dhenuka is a most powerful demon, and he has assumed the form of an ass. He's surrounded by many friends who have a similar shape and who are just as powerful as he. This demon Dhenuka has eaten men alive. And therefore, all people and animals are terrified of going to the Tala forest. O killer of the enemies, even the birds are afraid to fly there. But in the Tala forest, there are sweet-smelling fruits that no one has ever tasted. Indeed, even now we can smell the fragrance of the Tala fruit spreading all about. So there's some distance away. So where's this Talavan forest located? It is to the west of Mathura and to the southeast corner of Govardhan. In the middle there. So Govardhan is about 16 miles, 2 yojanas away from Mathura, and in the middle of that, to the southeast, is this Talavan forest. So they were near Govardhan, but the breeze was carrying the fragrance some distance away. So they're getting this fragrance. And they say, "Dear Balaram, our desire is to have those fruits. Our desire to have those fruits is very great. If you think it is a good idea, let's go to that Tala forest." So they're inciting. So when they hear this, Krishna and Balaram begin to laugh. They think like, how a donkey can be so strong that people become so fearful? Is this possible? And Krishna and Balaram, they began to laugh loudly. And so along with all their friends, they went to this Tala forest, Talavan. And Balaram, he just walked in and he looked at one tall tree and he started to shake it with his powerful arms without any fear. And the shaking, it made a noise and then it made a further noise. Why? Because the fruit began falling from the tree. And as they were falling to the ground, they were making that sound. And Dhenuka could understand somebody had come into Kamsa's forest. And so he charged at Balaram. And as he charged at Balaram, he swung his body around and hit Balaram in his chest. When he hit Balaram in his chest, Balaram looked at him and, who is this person? What does he think he's doing? And Balaram, he grabbed him by his hind legs and began to spin him. This fight didn't last very long. And began to spin him. And with a great force, Balaram threw him on top of the tallest tal tree. And the demon lost his life. And when he hit that tree, it was with such force that the tree broke and fell into another tree and another tree and another tree. With the force that Balaram threw him. And the demon was killed immediately. And as was described previously, he had friends. Sometimes if somebody's I don't know if I could say this and get away with it, but I'll say it still. If somebody has a reputation for being a big ass, like Dhenukasura, then naturally, what happens? There's many smaller ones following him. So when they saw what happened to their leader, they charged not at Balaram. They charged at who? Krishna. Why? Because they thought if he was the strongest out of all of us, and Balaram so easily did that to him, let us go after Krishna instead. But they didn't realize what would happen. And as much as they were charging in, there's a very beautiful picture, like in the old Krishna book, where donkeys on top of trees, they were getting spun around and killed in fast time by Balaram and Krishna. And in this way, this Dhenuka was killed by Balaram. There's some history as to why Balaram killed Dhenuka and not Krishna. Everybody knows Prahlad, right? Prahlad's son was named Virochana. Virochan's son was named Bali. Bali had one son, Bali Maharaj from 8th Canto, Vamandev. Bali Maharaj had one son by the name of Sahashika. This Sahashika was very, very powerful. And naturally, sometimes when people have power, wealth, facility, he was enjoying, callously in the Gandha Madana hill in a beautiful stream, along with thousands of women. And Durvasa Muni was meditating just near. And he saw, you are behaving just like an animal. Your consciousness is like that of a donkey. Therefore, you should become one. And he cursed him to become a donkey, a Dhenuka. When he took birth, he said, but you will also get one benediction, that in so many years' time, you would be killed by the hands of Balaram. You would be killed by Balaram. That is given in Garga Samhita. In Brahma Vaivarta Puran, there's an additional history that is given where Sahashika was there in Gandha Madana and saw this very beautiful Apsara girl by the name of Tilottama. Tilottama had one other appointment, but she was convinced by Sahashika that you should stay here with me. And they began to shamelessly enjoy. And Durvasa Muni cursed both of them. Durvasa Muni cursed both of them that you should take birth as demons. But they began to repent. And so he gave the blessing that Dhenuka would be killed by Balaram. And he gave the blessing to Tilottama that you would take birth as the daughter of Banasura, Usha. And when Krishna appears, you would become married to his grandson, Aniruddha. So Tilottama became Usha, whose father was a demon, and she became married to Krishna's grandson, Aniruddha. So this pastime, even though it's a very simple one, I find there's a lot of lessons we can learn from it. This Dhenukasura, he was guarding. Nobody would get the fruit. Sometimes we know people like that, and quite frankly, nobody likes them. People speak ill of them sometimes. Person, all the mangoes are falling off the tree. You ask them for one mango. No. Isn't it? I remember many years ago, we went behind, we used to go and bathe in the river until when we were small. And there was one person we went by, my cousin didn't like him. He was the ringleader. So we crossed the river and we went. And there was this nice bunch of coconut on the tree. We left all the coconuts on the tree, but cut all and full it. We left the whole bunch on the tree. And punctured the coconuts and filled the water and went with it. As much as we could have collected. So sometimes there are people like that. That they would have and they don't give. They don't share. So Dhenuka, he was keeping all these fruits and nobody could enjoy them. Nobody could have them. So if we examine ourselves, what do we have of value that we can share with Krishna, that we can share with others? And in examining this, Chanakya Pandit, he has said that with millions and millions of dollars or millions and millions of gold coins, one is not able to buy even the smallest moment of time. One is not able to purchase even a single fraction, what even a second, even a fraction of a second, one cannot buy. So what is the most valuable resource we have? Time. How much of it we have? How much of it we have left? We don't know. So if the most valuable resource we have is time, the most valuable thing we can give to Krishna is our time. When we make that effort to give our time to Krishna, it is like giving Krishna a valuable gift. If you want to look at it from a different way, Krishna says, Kalosmi, I am time. So even giving time to Krishna is giving Krishna the most valuable thing himself. And when we sincerely give of ourselves to Krishna and to others, the reciprocation we get is direct. We directly get that reciprocation from Krishna. There's this bhajan that we sometimes sing, Bhaja Hure Manashri Nanda Nandana. You know, that Shitaya Tapa Bata Parijana Edina Jamini Jagire. That in cold and in heat, in Guyana we might not have too much cold, but we have rain and we have heat. We would labor very hard for somebody else. For miserly and wicked people, we give the most valuable part of our lives to people who don't care about us. And we may have to do that to earn a livelihood, to maintain the responsibility of taking care of our families and other responsibilities. But if we practice giving some time to Krishna, and giving time to Krishna doesn't only mean at the temple. Yes, it means at the temple, but we can give time to Krishna by dedicating some of our time every day to chanting the holy name, to reading about Krishna from these books that Srila Prabhupada has given us. Dedicate some time to doing something for someone else, another devotee, conscientiously, with intention and attention. Dedicating some time every day to reading something about Krishna's pastimes from Krishna book, from Srimad Bhagavatam, from Chaitanya Charitamrita, from Bhagavad Gita. And what is the natural result of that? Is that our attraction for Krishna increases. Our capacity to love Krishna and to be loved by Krishna also increases by the effort we make to give of ourselves to Krishna, through the chanting of the holy name, through the association of and service to Vaishnavas, through the reading and hearing of these books that Srila Prabhupada has so mercifully made available to us, like Srimad Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita, and so on. Get together with friends, share something about Krishna. It benefits us and it benefits those who come in contact with us. If you don't want to read, I'm sure everybody has a cell phone and probably everybody has data on the phone or internet at home. Go on YouTube. Search out. You could find narrations of Krishna's pastimes on YouTube. You can listen to it while you drive. And sometimes even now I find myself listening to Amala Bhakta's recitation of Chaitanya Charitamrita and Srimad Bhagavatam while I drive. You make some time. When we change our habits, we change. When we change the quality of our conversations, we change. And that comes by changing the quality of our consciousness. And the quality of our consciousness can change by infusing ourselves with the words of Lord Krishna, with the holy name of Lord Krishna, by keeping ourselves in good company. So just to end this, I'll say one thing. Don't be like Dhenukasura, but try to give something which is valuable to Krishna and the service of his devotees. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai. Now the arti.